Welcome back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Joel.
And we are back for season 2 of the podcast. We're really excited for where we're headed in this season. Last season was lots of fun, a great kickoff. But we're jumping back in with the question, what is one book you think everyone should read and one book you wish never existed? And you can't include the Bible for either answer.
Oh, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, this is hard because one, like as far as books that I wish never existed, I couldn't think of anything because I felt like, and this is going to sound probably like a very cheesy answer, but like I feel like you learn something from everything you read. So like even if it sucks or I didn't like it, like that's okay. So I don't have to like everything, and everybody has a different personal preference.
You heard it here first. Allison Brantley is okay with Mein Kampf from Adolf Hitler. She thought that you can learn a lot of good things from it.
I have never
read it here first.
Oh my God.
And this is also the last episode of the podcast because we are canceled forever. Learn from everything.
I mean, you probably could learn how not to do things.
Okay, there is that. There is that.
But I don't know. Could you think of one you wish never existed? Besides that,
this was in high school, Abby. So like I was mad about any book I had to read pretty much. But The Scarlet Letter.
Nathaniel Hawthorne?
I hated that book.
That's a good book.
I was so mad reading it, and like I didn't get like the
themes and
stuff. Yeah, the
Oh,
themes and like I just remember like it was really weird because her baby was like. It almost described it like a demon. Like it was weird. It was a weird book, and I just did not like it. And I was probably also just rebellious and was mad that my mom made me read it for high school.
Well,
but it discusses themes of like shame and public shaming, and oh man, there's some good themes in there. You should try it again. Try it again as an adult Abby. I bet you get some things from it. Mine was really easy. I just initially went to a book series that I read when I was like, probably 6th grade to like 8th grade. The Left Behind books. I wish that those books had never ever existed. Right. I think like looking back on it, like me being young and always being attracted to things from Christianity and the Bible, like I was like, oh, this is fun. It's like a thriller, but like it just stokes so much fear and honestly what I believe now to be a really destructive understanding of how the end times are going to be, which are just led me to so much fear to where like one Saturday morning I was reading like the 2nd or 3rd book and my parents weren't downstairs and I was the only one home and there was like laundry that was half folded that I was thinking like, oh my gosh, my parents just got raptured. I was panicking. I started calling my grandparents and they weren't picking up. It was like a traumatic thing, right? And I just think that book series overall did a lot of damage and taught some things that are probably definitely not where I fall theologically today, and I think it led to some destruction there. But as far as like a book that I loved that I wish everyone would read, it was actually one of those books I had to read in school. I forget what year it was, probably freshman or sophomore year, but reading To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Man, it just like struck me. Some of the themes of prejudice and doing the right thing in the face of opposition and just family and empathy and learning about the other. I mean, I think that book shaped me in some really profound ways. A couple years ago, right before COVID, they made a Broadway show of it, To Kill a Mockingbird. It was actually written, the screenplay, by Aaron Sorkin, who's my favorite screenwriter and everything. I'm like, oh man, one of these days I got to go see the play of To Kill a Mockingbird. But that's a book I wish everybody would read. I just learned so much from it. I think it shaped me in a lot of ways.
I love that. Mine is not as deep. It's more whimsical, but there's, or winsome, I don't know the right word, but there's a book called Love Does by Bob Goff. I think I may have even mentioned it in here before. I don't know. But it's a super easy read, but it literally changed the way that I look at people, how I love them, why I do things, not out of obligation, but out of love. And it may not be like super earth-shattering to everyone or super deep to others, but it definitely changed my life. And just when I started living like love is a action verb and doing things. So anyways, that was mine. What about you, Miss Abby?
Yeah, mine's not anywhere near deep as either of yours.
The pokey little puppy?
No, not quite that shallow. But it's The Hobbit. It's one of my favorite books, and I just love anytime that I pick it up, because I'll read it, every couple years just to, refresh my memory and stuff on it. But it always gives me this sense of childhood adventure and wonder and stuff, and I think it's a great book to bring you back to that.
Yeah, 200 pages of a book that Peter Jackson turned into 10 hours of a movie series, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's awesome. An unexpected
and I've not read it or watched it, either one. So
well, no one's perfect.
Honestly, that's me.
So our first topic today is about Kirk Cameron, who was in the Left Behind movies. He is responding to the cries of parents who feel bullied and is headed to more public libraries. This is a Yahoo News article by Maureen Mackey. Kirk Cameron is going on a book tour for his new children's book, As You Grow. The book is an illustrated children's book that shares the story of an oak tree throughout its seasons of life. The story encourages children to develop and share the virtues of patience, joy, kindness, compassion, self-control, and other biblical values. His problem now is that he can't find libraries to host his tour. Cameron says that so many people have reached out asking him to come to their city, but public libraries either denied his request to hold story hours or never responded to his book publisher's request to hold book-based events there. He says there are millions of Christians, parents, patriots, and concerned Americans who realize that we're in a battle for the hearts and minds of our children, and we're going to take them back one story hour at a time, if that's what it takes. So, what do you think about him saying that we are in a battle for children's minds and hearts and everything that he's saying here in this article?
I know this is a podcast, but hashtag eye roll is really what I feel towards this whole posture. And come on, man. This is just so fear-driven. It's so defensive. It's so counter to self-giving love and a sacrificial witness in our culture. Our American culture is more secularized than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. But mind you, you look back at church history and the message of Jesus spread more when we were a persecuted minority than ever when we were a majority holding political power or when we were pushing our thumb down on other people. And I think that this is just an example in a long list of things that, yes, are changing, and we're not doing anybody any favors. We're not standing up for Jesus. Jesus doesn't need that. He doesn't need us to defend him. I think he's doing okay on his own. And I just get so frustrated by this posture. That being said, I think it is important to empathize and meet people and parents in where they are with, yes, things are changing. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are things in the public square that were very, very common 10, 15 years ago that are not going to be in the public square anymore. But I would try to gently point us back to whose responsibility is it for us to raise, if you're a person of faith, to raise them in faith? Is it your government? Is it this public school? Is it
Kirk Cameron?
Is it some wannabe has-been movie star? Sorry, I love Growing Pains, but that's a long time ago. Whose responsibility is it? It's almost like there are, and I have a lot of energy behind this, so grace umbrella, but it's almost like we want government-funded things to teach our kids Christianity, but we're also angry about the way that they will or won't do it. Mm-hmm. And I think the responsibility is on us as parents to raise our kids in the way that we want them to be raised. And you know what? If you don't like the way it's being done in a public school, there are other options, and maybe you should consider those instead of this fear-mongering, we need to take our country back kind of attitude. Pastor and author Andy Stanley says something I think it's very profound, that always rings in my mind when I think of these kind of conversations. He said that the people of God always look more like Jesus when we're fighting for others' rights than when we're trying to cling to our own. And this just feels so defensive. I think a watching world that don't even believe Jesus was who he says he was, death, resurrection, that whole thing in the Bible. But they're like, seriously, guys, you know. And I think there are other actual persecuted brothers and sisters of Christ in the world that would just be like face palming this and being like, what are you talking about? Like, you can pray, you can pray, you can read your Bible. No one's checking your government issued ID for your religious status. And so Kirk Cameron, respectfully, sir, maybe just do your book readings in churches that will bring you in, or hold some other kind of thing. I think that you're not doing anybody any favors outside of building more outrage and fear. And I just wish that this would go away.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, do I want my kids to have the fruit of the Spirit, to be patient, to have self-control, the things that he's talking about in this book, I guess. But obviously, like, I don't need to go to a library story time to be able to teach them that, especially when I think, and this is kind of the cynical part of my brain too, but I'm like, what's his actual goal? Like, he's selling this book, so yes, I think, he wants to get his message out, but at the same time, like, you have another agenda. You're also hawking this book, so I can check it out at my public library for free if I want to and read it to my kids at home. That's the other thing. So I don't know, having, something that you believe in super strongly, having a message that you back, I'm all for that. But also in this article, like, he calls people a woke mafia when they don't agree with him. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
Yeah, and you wonder why there would be certain public institutions that might not want to align with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was hyper partisan in the 2020 election. I mean, publicly backing, supporting, encouraging people to vote for President Trump. And no matter who you vote for, but if you're holding any kind of spiritual authority and you're telling people this is what you should do, you lose a ton of credibility, and you paint yourself into a corner that I think he's probably experiencing some of the results of that and reaping what he sowed inside of that. And again, it just goes back to what you said, like, whose responsibility is it? It's our families and the families that attend local congregations and gatherings and communities. But to put it all on a public school system, and that time has passed. And I actually think we have a better opportunity to be salt and light. We have a better opportunity to shine when we're not the ones holding all the power. But I can understand why that can be scary. I just think it's a bit more. It's a potent opportunity to respond. But man, the language of "we are in a battle for the hearts and minds of our children" is so fear mongering.
Right.
Of course, that's going to get people riled up because I want my heart and the mind of my children to be set straight as well, and I don't want them to be co-opted by any kind of agenda. Frankly, I don't want my kids to be co-opted by this kind of an agenda, which is sad because I probably agree with 99 to 100% of every word in the book that he wrote.
Right.
But like the way that he's carrying this platform and power, yuck.
Yeah. A lot of the language he used was it was fear-mongering and like very focused on, I'm being persecuted. They're not letting me go to those libraries. Yeah, he could just as easily go to churches that would be so happy to have him there.
But you don't get the media attention.
Yeah, right? Set up in a public park, I don't know, anywhere.
Yeah, and so that's what really stuck out to me is just, he really focuses on the persecution. It frustrates me when Christians do that because we're not facing near as much persecution as people in other parts of the world. You can find, at least around here, you can find a church on, every other block. They're all over the place. And so we're not being silenced like we see everywhere else.
And Jesus actually promised us we would be persecuted. There's the other side of it too, is like, even if like this is something that we were being persecuted, we were being silenced, there were freedoms that we lost, even in our country, which I love our country for all of its warts. It's the greatest place in the world to live. I'm so glad that I'm here. But even if we were persecuted, like, where do we get the call from Jesus to like take back the power and fight? We don't. Jesus promises us in this life you'll have trouble. He tells his disciples in detail that you will be persecuted because of me. And we're supposed to have this posture of self-sacrifice and love and patience and long-suffering through persecution, not fight back. I mean, that's just, I could go on and on about this. But I totally agree, Abby. I think that it diminishes what actually is going on in other countries, and it diminishes maybe when persecution does come. People are going to be like, oh, the boy that cried wolf, because you guys were whining about the public libraries. Eye roll emoji.
Yep. Our next article today comes from BBC. It says Walmart cashier retires after TikTok raises $100,000. U.S. veteran and Walmart cashier Warren Marion, 82 years old from Cumberland, Maryland, is able to retire after a GoFundMe that raised $108,000 for his retirement. Rory McCarty, a small business owner with a big following on TikTok, saw a video where someone was able to raise money and help someone retire through TikTok and wanted to bless someone else the same way. Marty has a following of 300,000 people on TikTok for his extermination business and decided to put that following to good use. After posting the GoFundMe, the goal was met within a few days. Last week, Mr. Marion had his last day on the job after giving his 2 weeks' notice. Local news media captured the new retiree walking into the Walmart parking lot with balloons and being greeted by the applause of loved ones. Marion says, "All I can tell you is the good Lord has blessed me for what I did in my younger years." I love seeing these articles where TikTok does good stuff. TikTok gets ragged on a lot.
It really does.
By me.
Yes, by Joel.
And I'll stand by it. God can use terrible things for good.
Honestly.
So I love seeing articles and stories like this where something good comes out of it.
Yeah, especially like that. What was his name? Warren. Like, he didn't ask anybody to do that. You know, this was just something that guy did, which I love, like you said. Again, the cynical part of my brain, which I don't know why I'm on that today, but anyways, like, I hope he actually enjoys retirement. Like, I know that, like, everybody, their goal is, like, to retire. Usually you're just working for the end a lot of times, but, like, when I'm that old, I'm going to want to also be able to interact with people and see people and have a purpose and still be able to do things. So, like, I really hope that finds enjoyment and isn't, like, sad at home because now he doesn't have a job.
Well, retirement, retirement is not a Christian biblical idea. It's not anywhere in the scriptures. But
we
there
don't know
is
Warren's life.
But what I'm saying is, like, it is idolized a lot, retirement, and then people sit and am I supposed to literally just golf and drink
what am I supposed
and
to do?
sit and watch TV? But like, no, that's not a vision for our lives that we're given in the scriptures, even if we're Christians. But I do think, like, retirement can open you up to re-aiming your energy and refocusing your energy on passions and things that you love and opening up more time to do things for others. I mean, there are so many retired people at our church that are just always looking for ways to serve and how they can make a difference and use their skills that they acquired through their work. So let's just hope that
I really am. That's
Warren's
what I'm saying.
Got that. They're not just like golfing and drinking, mimosas all day long.
My bigger fear was that he's just like home alone and like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But no, I love this.
I love the thing that I love, and it's not because of TikTok. Let the record show, not because of TikTok, but the thing that I'm drawn to in this story is the guy Rory McCarty, the small business owner with a big following on TikTok.
It's like an exterminator.
Yes, like he's not like an influencer in that way, but what I love about it is him deciding to use this platform, this audience, his power, his fame, not for himself, but for somebody else. That it wasn't like this was a contest. It was literally him using his platform, his influence, his fame, and offering it up to as a service to somebody else. I mean, this won't make sense with the timeline when this is released, but just this month at our church, we're walking through the New Testament letter of Philippians, and I just preached on Philippians 2, the beginning of that chapter, which is this beautiful poem that Paul either writes or quotes about Jesus' life. And this is one of the beautiful things that Jesus does with his power, his influence, his position. Paul says this, Jesus, who being in the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. And then he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. And so what you see there is Jesus, who has power, has influence, has fame, the eternal Son of God. And what does he do with it? He doesn't point it towards himself. He actually offers it as a servant to us. That's what this dude did.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it gets really practical to us, like, because we all have some level of a platform, some level of power, influence, whether that's in our resources, our job, our social media, even our TikTok accounts. We all have something that, you know, is powerful. And this is a great call from somebody who runs an exterminator business to, like, whatever we have, how are we not doing it to cycle back on us? But to help others. And that's beautiful. That's Jesus stuff right there. Right. And so now that happened on TikTok. It's not because of TikTok, but it happened and it's beautiful. Yeah. I think that is awesome. I love that story.
Yeah. So we are going to come back to this topic that we've talked about multiple times before. What are you streaming right now? And then we have a follow-up question after we talk about that.
You want to go first?
Well, mostly right now, I'm, you know, bedtimes are hard at our house right now. We have an almost 4-year-old and an almost 2-year-old. So by the time that the nightly battle of bedtime ends and both of the kids are asleep and we clean up the house and do some laundry, dishes, all that kind of stuff, we have not had a ton of capacity to watch new things. But like a comfortable.
You back on the West Wing?
Well, I'm always back on the West Wing. But Megan and I, we over break bought the entire Office that we can stream on like Apple TV. So we're just rewatching The Office for the first time in about 2 years, and we've tried to like fall asleep with it on in the background, and then we'll just like be chuckling, like even when we're not watching the TV. So we're back on the Office train, and it is so good, the Dunder Mifflin Express. And that was a show that Megan and I started watching when we were dating. Like in high school, we would watch this show, and so we grew up with it. The Jim and Pam, Dwight, Michael, it's the good stuff. So that's what we're rewatching right now. So we're streaming that right now.
And what season are you in right now?
We're in 4.
4.
Which, man, it's got some classic episodes.
Yeah.
4 is, we can't get over how funny it is. Like the joke per minute, there's just so much of it. So we're about to the dinner party episode, which is one of the greatest, the cringiest, best episode ever.
Also love that you cannot see us in this room because of the podcast, but I'm literally just sitting here like a big oaf because I've never, ever watched one episode of The Office. So.
You're so proud of that.
That needs to be on your 2-stream list.
You're so proud of it. You're proud of it, and we're just like, you're so stupid for not doing this.
I mean, yeah, you're probably right. No, I just actually finished last night Emily in Paris. I had never watched any. There's 3 seasons out now. I had never watched any of them.
She's still in Paris?
She's still in Paris. Into season 3. They're already planning season 4, and she's still going to be in Paris. So that's what I just finished. It was cute, fun, like really easy to watch. Some of the episodes are like 30 minutes, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time. But that was fun. And then my husband and I just finished Kaleidoscope on Netflix.
Did you watch it already?
Well, yeah, it's been out for
I thought it was just like a month ago.
Well, maybe. A month is a long time.
Well, I thought it was like 10 episodes long. Sorry, again, we can't watch TV at ours. We're watching like 20 minutes and falling asleep.
No, but it was good. It's crazy. Interesting. Yeah, if you've not heard of it, that like apparently you can watch it in any order and it still works. But, you know, I don't know. Having watched it now, I'm like, I could see where a couple episodes you could reverse and, you know, still be fine, but I don't know. I feel like the way we watched it was the right order. I don't know.
Crazy.
I don't know what the right order is.
Wrap my head around the storytelling technique. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, but doesn't Netflix randomize it for each person? Yeah, that's wild.
So you could watch it and watch it in a different order than what I watched it. But I don't know.
It blows my mind.
It is.
What if they're trolling all of us and there's just one order and they're telling people this and we because like
I didn't write it down like what order we watched.
I can't wrap my head around how they could do this and do it well, but I am fascinated. It's on my to
But I didn't know that. Like when we first started watching it, I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah. And so we were like 3 episodes in and I'm like, what episode are we on? And you know, my husband was like, I think episode 3, but at the beginning of each episode, it doesn't say that like a normal show, like episode 2, it's just a color. And I'm like, how the heck am I supposed to know? And then, slow me.
That's cool.
Found out that that's intentional.
But
It was good.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I'm totally in. Mm-hmm. I'm blown away by just the way that they could actually do the storytelling that way.
Yeah.
And like it makes me think too, like you'd want to go back and rewatch it because you get a different story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch it again, it'd be randomized in a different version.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's amazing.
That's cool. Yeah. So just last week, Lucas and I started watching the TV show Fargo.
It's so good, Abby.
I've never watched it either.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about it. We can't do it on the podcast too much because we'd be here for a long time. Amazing.
Like,
season 1 through 3 are incredible.
I had never watched it. I thought it was on HBO, and like we don't pay extra to have HBO. And then I realized it was on Hulu, and I watch literally anything Martin Freeman is in because he's one of my favorite actors.
Who was the main actor in the Hobbit movies?
Bring that back. Yeah. So I was so excited to find out it was on Hulu and started watching it. It is so good. It's about this little town. Well, so far, I don't know how it goes the rest of the series, but so far it's about this little town, Minnesota, and some murders happen, and it's like a murder mystery thing, but
Billy Bob Thornton in season 1, that actor,
oh my gosh.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh man, sorry. We got so much
good.
to talk about later.
Yes.
So good.
So I'm super excited to continue it. The episodes are just long, and so we normally...
You don't get very far.
Yeah. So like if we sit down for dinner, we'll watch like a show that's has a 20 or 30 minute episode, so we don't get as much time to watch those, but we're moving along through it slowly, and I love it so far and can't wait to finish it.
So speaking of Hulu, what you're watching that on, there's another show called Wild Crime. It's interesting. We've started watching it, but it's about crimes that happen in national parks.
Oh,
it's just because you think there's someplace, beautiful to go and hike and visit. People are weird, you guys.
Oh my gosh.
It's fascinating.
Okay.
Joel's rolling his eyes at me because, I'm all about the crime stuff around here. So.
All the ways to be murdered. Allison knows it all.
Or to stay alive. Look at it that way.
So our next question is, what shows or movies are on your to-stream list for 2023? I'm adding that show to my to-stream list because that sounds great.
Wild Crime?
Yeah.
So mine were actually podcasts. They aren't actually shows that I want to start listening to. I haven't yet, but they are on my list. One is not going to come as a shock to Joel, but it's called Ear Hustle, and it's a podcast that talks about the daily realities of life inside prison, shared by people who are living it and those who are like reintegrating back into society after serving time. Super fascinating, you guys. And then the other one, which is the other side of my personality, is called Drama Queens, which is a One Tree Hill podcast where they 3 stars from the show if you're a One Tree Hill fan, Brooke, Peyton, and Haley, discuss every episode and talk about like the details you didn't get to see. So I want to rewatch the series along with the podcast.
Yeah.
Joel hates everything about
Did Office Ladies start that?
That was the first one I remember.
Yeah.
Because it had Angela and Pam from The Office. Yeah. My wife listened to it for quite a while.
I listened to it for a while.
But the West Wing Weekly was even before that. So maybe the West Wing Weekly, because they had somebody from the show and a big fan of the show, go through every West Wing episode as well. But there's Pod Meets World. People, I know some people are rewatching Boy Meets World, and it's got a couple people from
Gilmore Guy.
That was my secret passion project was to hang out with another guy friend, and we recap the Gilmore Girls and call it the Gilmore Guys. That's my passion project.
Nice.
It's gonna come soon.
Okay, Joel, what about your list?
I actually started to make a list because I kept being like, I want to watch that. And then when I would sit down at the end of the day, I'd be like, I don't have anything to watch. And so I've actually got a list over these next couple months I want to stream and listen to and watch. But one is Glass Onion, the new Knives Out movie that's on Netflix. I love the first one. Pretty pumped to watch that. Another is a show on HBO Max called White Lotus. My wife and I really like season 1. It's like this weird kind of comedy mystery kind of thing on like a resort thing, and it's an anthology, so every season's a whole different group of people in a different country. It's kind of funny. The first one was, but I know that we missed that whole second season, so I'm gonna watch that. I'm currently wanting to work through The Chosen season 3, which is the life of Jesus and his disciples. So watching that. And then there's a podcast I just stumbled upon a couple weeks ago called the I Kid You Not podcast, and it's actually a podcast about how to speak to your children in an age-appropriate way about the Bible and Bible stories, and how to engage them where they are and not lead them into a really destructive path later that you have to deconstruct from and go to counseling from. And, you know, being a pastor and having pastors' kids, that whole situation, I want to do as little damage as possible. So I've been listening to that podcast. Meredith Ann Miller is one of the hosts, and she is incredible at looking at the Bible with a wide lens and helping people where they are and encouraging them to ask questions. So I love it. Yeah. So I've just started that. They did a whole first episode on how to talk to them about creation, and I was just like, this is so good. This is so good. So trying to force the conversation with Jack. I'm like, I'm not listening at all. I just want to like practice what I learned.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, Glass Onion is at the top. I absolutely love Knives Out, so I'm really excited to watch that. It'll probably end up being this weekend that we'll watch it, whether or not Lucas wants to. I might just watch it by myself.
Sometimes you gotta.
Yeah. And then another one, it's brand new, but The Last of Us TV show that just started, what was it, Sunday was the first episode came out? Yeah, so it's based on the video game The Last of Us. Yeah. And I am desperately trying to find somewhere that is selling the video game because I want to play the game before I watch the show, but it is out of stock everywhere.
Pod friends, help us out. Yes. Abby needs this video game.
Yes. Before the weekend.
Call me as soon as you see it in store. I will meet you there. Yeah. But I don't have a very big list. I feel like I'm always someone who's like, if I want to watch something, I turn it on and watch it right then. And yeah.
I don't usually have a huge list either.
Yeah. But that's my short list for right now. I'm sure it'll grow as the year goes on. So our final article today is How Christians Can Support the Jewish Community as Antisemitism Spreads. This is a Relevant Magazine article by Serene Hudson. Antisemitism, for those who don't know, is defined as hostility towards or discrimination against Jews as a religious, ethnic, or racial group. It has regained momentum in the 21st century. Recently, the director of the FBI flagged anti-Semitism as a pervasive and present fact and promised to combat the many recent threats of violent extremism. Overcoming this darkness involves all of us. The author of this article says education begins with listening well. They encourage people to talk to Jewish communities near them to find out how they can partner and engage with them, as well as talking about ways they can help push against anti-Semitism in schools and workplaces. Education is the first step we can take to learn how we can repair past breaches of trust. We learn by studying our past and by building relationships with the Jewish community in the present. So, I'm sure you've all seen how anti-Semitism has spread a lot recently, especially with things that Kanye West specifically has said. But what did you guys think of the article and the ways that this author was suggesting to push back against it?
Well, I love that quote that you mentioned about how education begins with listening well, because there's a big difference in listening to actually understand someone or something than to respond with your opinion or, what you think. So I think slowing down and actually having those conversations where maybe you don't actually have part in the conversation, where you're just listening, is super important, because I think it's important to recognize that when people have been hurt, it's super dismissive to say like, well, it couldn't be that, or I'm not like that, or not all churches are like that, or not all people, like, you're not listening. Yeah. You can't erase the past or pretend it didn't happen, but how do we repair that broken trust and build those relationships instead?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that it begins with listening. This is such an interesting, just from where I'm at right now and what I'm learning, this whole conversation of anti-Semitism, because I think that there's a lot of ways that Christian churches have, in a soft way, sort of played into this by the way that we've read and talk about the Bible. Our scriptures, Christian scriptures, Old and New Testament, are Jewish. Like the Old Testament are the Jewish scriptures. That's what they would consider their Bible. And our New Testament was written by all Jewish people. And news alert, Jesus was Jewish, right?
Yeah, right.
Gentiles, or another word for people that aren't Jewish, we are late to the party, and we have been grafted into what God is doing from the beginning of time. So there was a schism and a splitting that happened between Judaism and Christianity probably 1,500 years ago. And that has led to a lot of Christians and Gentile Christians being like, oh, we'll take it from here. And then we read into the way we read the Bible, the way we treat treat Jewish people, just sort of this negativity. Like, well, they missed the boat on Jesus, and so sorry about your luck. We'll take it from here. When the beautiful vision that we get from the New Testament, and one of the main reasons Paul is writing these letters that are recorded for us in the New Testament, is that he's talking about this new community that is being forged together, that the Spirit has forged together through Jesus of Gentile and Jewish. Not Jewish people becoming Gentile and not Gentile people becoming Jewish, but this new community grafted together. And it's all written by Jewish men that we have in our New Testament. So I think the way that even Christians use the phrase or the word Pharisee, the way that we can put down like Jewish law and negative tone we can have towards things, it's not helpful. I mean, God made an irrevocable covenant with the people of Israel, and God's going to sort it all out, how it all works out at the end. But there are brothers and sisters, and I know that I need to do a better job of listening and building those relationships, because there's just a lot of soft anti-Semitism, and then the stuff that we're seeing online and people talking about that's just unacceptable. Even if they weren't Jews, if they were Muslim or if they were of no faith, like, can we have some common dignity towards all kinds of people, which would be a beautiful thing. But I think it is helpful, just if you're a person of the Christian faith, to understand that like we have been grafted into this very Jewish thing that God started with his nation of Israel, and let's not have a superiority about us, but a humble spirit to learn and listen and be brothers and sisters with these people instead of treating them like the other.
Yeah. Well, and it's, always interesting to me when, people of faith hate any group, because that's literally, it doesn't add up to be a follower of Jesus and hate people at all, regardless of what kind of group they are. So that is always very hard for me to see on the internet or hear people talk about too. I'm like, it doesn't add up if you call yourself a Jesus follower. So it's sad.
Yeah. And I've just noticed a lot lately where people seem to think they can say whatever they want when it's behind a screen. And, I see a lot of racism and anti-Semitism and things like that on social media from like kids, and they think they can get away with whatever they want. And so I think it starts with listening and setting a good example, especially for younger people, where I see a lot of this coming from right now.
Well, you talk about kids. Where do you think they're hearing it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where you can't blame a 6-year-old kid for using a racial slur, can you? Because they've seen an example, they've heard it from a loving or a adult that they trust. And so, there's just so much. And again, it goes back to fear, probably. We don't understand, and so we demonize what we don't understand, and we're afraid of what we don't understand.
Yeah.
And it puts all these walls between whatever group you are with other groups of people. It's a tale as old as time. But it's the kind of thing that the message of Jesus actually started to obliterate in the first century. And that's why it was so explosive. That's why Paul was thrown into prison all over the place, because he's hanging out at tables with Gentiles, and he wasn't supposed to do that. And he's encouraging others to be together in this new kind of family. Yeah. So, it's the kind of thing that the message of Jesus actually destroys. And so that's, again, another opportunity for us to live in a countercultural kind of way. That's actually what we really long for.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on another episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any topics you'd like us to talk about or any questions you have, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at atypicaltalkpod. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.